Hello everyone, welcome to my Bourne Conspiracy, Assassin difficulty walkthrough. This is Mission 8, Paris Chase. This is the worst level in the game, by far. There is no sugarcoating it. This is the worst level in the game, by far. What this level is a reimagining of the same Paris Chase set piece from the Bourne Identity. Only on this game, they made it such an irreverent part of the game that is honestly insulting to Jason Bourne as a whole. Admittedly, I don't think the Paris Chase set piece from the Bourne Identity is that good. Like, the music was cheesy, Marie was annoying, and Jason made some rather cringy quotes during that whole moment. That being said, I'm glad that the Bourne Identity didn't rely on such Michael Bay-esque explosions or overblown destruction, and having such moments like those in the Bourne Identity would have felt out of place and would have made Bourne feel too much like a heartless character, or a character who, out of the blue, doesn't demonstrate any of the skills he demonstrated in the prior parts of the film. Not to mention that the idea of Jason and Marie escaping to a garage, then settling down in a hotel for a bit after a lot of overblown destruction was happening, would have honestly presented as such a huge ludonarrative dissonance with no sense of logical flow. So those are the things that I can appreciate about the film, but none of that is seen in this insulting, destruction derby-esque level. Like, I'm okay with the music, it's fine the way it is, but Marie irritatingly talks and screams so much, and she constantly relays commands to Jason, when Jason should already be well aware of the area, as was established in the film. Remember when they were in that diner, and Jason was telling Marie all these things that he knows, that no normal human being shouldn't be able to know, yet he doesn't know his own name? Why would she be relaying commands to him when he's supposed to have knowledge of the area? Because that's part of his, like, imprinting, like, that's part of his programming as a Treadstone agent. And also, Jason's delivery of his lines sound even more cringy than in the Bourne Identity. And also, there's so much wanton destruction happening everywhere that feels so out of character with the entirety of this game and with Bourne as a whole. And this entire level just overstays its welcome. The Paris Chase section from the Bourne Identity was only about 3 minutes long. This section, on the other hand, it's almost 10 to 11 minutes long, and it gets old real fast. It really does. This level overstays its welcome. It gets stale real fast. And on the gameplay side, it's clear this entire section is introduced for the sake of novelty without any clear thought. The controls for the car are stiff, and at times they can also feel loose. The police ram into you all the time, which makes them feel like thugs and not cops. Also, if they are near you for way too long, the bar on the right will fill, and you'll fail. And there are many times where the police seem to keep up with you relentlessly. The bar fills, but it doesn't penalize you sometimes. Like, there's ambiguity on the bar in this section. And also, the car physics can sometimes be against you, and the QTEs for this level don't work the same as the other QTEs in the other levels, because for whatever reason, the QTEs in the Paris Chase section, they don't give a sound effect that allows you to know that a QTE is coming. So you have to always assume that when you're in the middle of the cutscenes that take place in the Paris Chase section, that even when it looks like you're done, there's going to be a QTE coming up, even though there is no sound effect present. And then for the adrenaline system on this level, it slows down time if you hold triangle, and it allows you to control the car a bit, but in all honesty, it doesn't feel like it makes that much of a difference, and it just feels better just to let go of the accelerator and just turn, or just use the handbrake. And also, to refill your adrenaline, you have to smash into objects. What? Just look back at the Paris Chase sequence from the Bourne Identity. You don't see Jason smashing into every object in the Bourne Identity. I mean, he smashes into some objects here and there, but he doesn't go out of his way to just drive like a fucking maniac. Like, why would they design it so it just turns into Destruction Derby? Like, it's so offensive to the source material of Jason Bourne. At least the vehicle sequences in Resident Evil 6 weren't so offensive and didn't feel like discordant sequences. There is nothing redeemable about this level in the Bourne Conspiracy. And is it really that important of a section to warrant its own level? Why not just have this sequence play at the end of the Castell fight, but just have it be shorter? Like, just have it be like a 2 to 3 minute section. Like, these kind of gimmicks in games, they only work when they don't outstay their welcome. This section definitely outstays its welcome with its 10 to 11 minute format. The vehicle sequences in Resident Evil 6 didn't overstay their welcome. I mean, aside from Chapter 5 of Ada's campaign, where you spend so much of your time inside of that chopper, and it definitely overstayed its welcome. But every other vehicle sequence, it only lasted for about a short while. There is nothing you could really complain about with those vehicle sequences, because by the time you could even think about complaining about them, they were already done. So why would they not follow that same trend with these kind of gimmicks? It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And going back to what I said before, this should have been the ending sequence of the Castell fight, where it wasn't just simply one mediocre melee fight. They could have had this be at the end of the Castell fight, but it should have been better choreographed. It should have had a better tone to it, and it should have been like 2 to 3 minutes long. And they could have made the mechanics so much better than what they are right now, but they didn't. They ran out of ideas as to what to do, and they just opted to instead turn this game into Destruction Derby, and that's what we get for a level, and it's so offensive to the Bourne material. I can't believe it. I cannot believe they would ever do anything like this. And you spend a lot of your times driving around in circles. Like, look at this. Why am I driving back here? I was just in this area, but the game is telling me to follow the objective markers, just to circle around. And then, look, we have cops who only serve as very irritating roadblocks that are so much better at turning than you are, and you spend so much time just accidentally running into them, and then you have to waste time backing up or driving to the side so that you can then proceed onward. And you'll probably have to repeat this process several times, because that's how often the cops run into you, or you end up running into them, because they're placed so perfectly and they turn so perfectly to just cut you off. I cannot believe the developers even spent as much time as they did debating what to do with this level, and this is what they ended up going for. It's almost about as confusing in its implementation as those turret sections in Dead Space 1, where you had to take control of a turret and you had to shoot meteors out of the air before they actually hit the Ishimura. And the controls for that section were not very good, and also you had to rely upon the laser-sighted system, and the laser-sighted system that they use for aiming only works when it complements the over-the-shoulder perspective, when the camera is actually over Isaac's shoulder, and it's tracking your movement as you're moving the right analog stick. You can't just have a static camera angle and then place it in a way where it is so hard to tell whether your laser is properly lined up with the debris that you're shooting at, or with certain encounters like in the final boss fight, for instance. There is a sequence in the final boss fight of Dead Space 1 where the boss grabbed you, and the camera was placed in a fixed position, but Isaac was all the way off to the right, and he was having to shoot to the left. And the amount of time I spent trying to decipher where exactly my laser was pointing, and the boss came very close to killing me, and luckily it didn't, because I upgraded my damage on my plasma cutter to at least give myself as little time as possible to shoot the boss. If I spent so much time just trying to search for where my laser was pointing. Was that really a good idea, do you think? And going back to the turret sequence, why would you even have some kind of Space Invader-esque sequence in a survival horror game? What were you planning on achieving with doing that? You could have easily written in some other kind of accident occurring on the Ishimura that would have probably generated the same kind of effect had you not been shooting the space debris in those turret sequences. No, you just wanted to go for that because you just wanted to introduce some kind of gimmick just to spice up the gameplay, but instead of spicing it up, it just ruined the taste of the actual game. Really? Glenn Schofield, what were you thinking with that? And at least they improved these kind of sections in Dead Space 2, because Dead Space 2 had a reticle-based system, not a laser-sighted system. So when the reticle was complementing the camera, rather than having the laser sight complement Isaac's aiming, but independent of the camera, those sequences in Dead Space 2 were so much better in design. You didn't have to waste time deciphering where exactly your laser was pointing. You just had that reticle at the center of your screen, you just moved it with your right analog stick, and you're able to properly adjust your aiming to actually aim for the thing that is attacking you, or the thing you have to shoot in order to end the sequence. Like, they had the right idea with that, but how is it that common sense completely escaped them when designing those sequences in Dead Space 1? And those are the kind of sequences that this whole sequence in the Bourne Conspiracy reminds me of. And oh, look at this. We have the final QTE sequence of this level, and then the level will end. But just look at the amount of destruction that is occurring here. Look at how much the cops are trying to run into Bourne. And then watch this. This is a great example of a Michael Bay explosion that is completely unnecessary and ill-fitting for a Bourne game or for any kind of Bourne media. We have this big explosion that happens, and then at the end of this level, we go to a cutscene where Bourne and Marie just drive into the garage and they act like none of that happened. Like, why would you ever want to embrace that kind of ludonarrative dissonance? And people want to say Uncharted introduced the whole idea of ludonarrative dissonance, but this game released before Uncharted. I mean, this is a great example of ludonarrative dissonance at its worst. This is dreadful. This is fucking stupid. And with that final QTE sequence, this is the end of this dreadful, miserable, and downright insufferable level of the Bourne Conspiracy. Stay tuned for the future missions. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.